Well, welcome everyone. I am Dr. David Loertscher from the School of Information and San Jose State University, and today we welcome you to meet a wonderful person, Molly Dettmann from Norman, Oklahoma, and so we're just delighted to have you with us, Molly. Do introduce yourself a little more about yourself and your school.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Molly Dettmann. I am a teacher librarian at Norman North High School in Norman, Oklahoma. In my school district, there are two main high schools, and so I'm at one of them. And I am going into my sixth year as a school librarian. Before that, I worked in public libraries and teen services for 4 years prior. So that I always loved school visits and I always loved going to the school. So then it was a really lovely transition where then I was able to really work with our public library partners more easily because I knew that life and then I joined the school life. So really love working with students, especially high schoolers. They're little goobers, but they're so much fun to work with and to teach and to share that love of reading. And I'm the current chair of our Oklahoma School Librarians Division. So I'm very, very involved in our state and national library organizations.
Uh-huh. Well, you belong to this Norman school district who have had wonderful school libraries for decades. So you've been, they've been at the top forever and ever. So today, let's examine, from the point of view of leadership, I know that you know how to reach out to faculty and departments and all of that stuff. Describe to us how you develop this trust so that you get lots done collaboratively.
Well, a lot of it just comes down to just being really knowledgeable about what's going on. Right now, especially in Oklahoma and all around the country, there's teacher shortages. We have people who are joining the profession who don't have maybe traditional teaching backgrounds or prior, like they have college degrees, but not like in education. So, about my fourth year teaching, I made myself our new teacher liaison. We have a new teacher liaison program in my district. And so I made sure I was like our site contact so I could work directly with brand new teachers who come from all sorts of different backgrounds, whether, they just came from student teaching to, the backgrounds I just mentioned, so that then I could be a support and just kind of learn what their needs were, just to like make them feel more comfortable in the school, just get comfortable teaching and just getting kind of in the flow of things. And then also just being knowledgeable about their content. So like from English to social studies to math. It's hard to like, off the top of your head, know every single standard and every single unit that's coming up. But I just made it a point to like really talk to the teachers at my school. It's a pretty big school, but it took some time, but just really made myself knowledgeable about what was going on so I could be that support to teachers. So whether, I then, directly was able to collaborate and work with them, or I just offered them resources that then helped them out in, a unit or a lesson or something that they were teaching. That's kind of how I've really gotten in, like working with those new teachers so that then, they stay with us and then want to work with the library more once they get more comfortable and more in the groove of their teaching. So that's kind of been my big way to get in with the most teachers and most departments because unfortunately though we do have so many new teachers that have come every year, but every year they stay with us. I'm like, yay, let's now do some more fun stuff.
So really direct support of those folks as you partner with them. Give us a couple of examples of some actual learning experiences that you've partnered in that show the difference that the additional content and skills that you're working with the kids simultaneously with what their goals and objectives are.
Yeah, so one way I kind of got in with like our math department was we had a brand new math teacher, got to know her a little better. She had these big ideas for these cool like hands-on math things, math lessons and activities, and needed a bigger space. And it was like, well, the library's a great place, but let's like work together on this and see what we can kind of do together. So from that, um, just kind of talking to each other, we came up with it was a really cool Star Wars math escape room. So it was like the students were doing the math. We had the stations all set up. They were all Star Wars themed, and they were solving like it was geometry. So they were solving like the circumference of like different circle related math geometry concepts. And then we had Sphero Star Wars robots that then the kid then once they like solved all the math, they got to then like program and play with play, but really they were programming and working with angles and maneuvering their little robots through a little obstacle course in the library classroom. So that was really fun. And then it also then, turned into that teacher ended up leaving. She went to a different state. But then the other math teachers were like, this is cool. We can work with the library. So then and there's a big geometry project that one of our freshman teacher does every year where the students, they create castles, and then these castles have to have so many geometric shapes, and then they have to measure the surface area and volume of the shapes and the castle, which like that's evolved each year. So like even this year, most of the students actually I worked with them to help them create their design Tinkercad so that then we could 3D print their models. But then they also made cardboard models on a larger scale and all of that. So all within the library, super fun. Math, that was a really fun way where just like an energetic teacher who wanted a space, now it's turned into a longer collaboration, more deeply embedded within the math department. And then I've done some cool research units with some of the other math teachers. And so that it's opened up a lot of doors, because especially math, like I for sure never would have really thought library and math would have gone together, but I have such a better appreciation for it. And then another thing that was kind of cool. So sometimes, I will say classroom teachers, they get, once you get the year started, even if you hear a new cool idea, sometimes it's really hard to implement it because you're just like so overwhelmed with like just getting through the content, getting through the year, surviving at this point. So then sometimes like if I have a cool idea, or maybe I go to a workshop, or maybe I go somewhere and learn something, I'll bring it back, I'll kind of build it together, and then I'll go to the teachers and say like, hey, I have this thing, April 26th, you want to come to the library and we'll have a good time. And so I did that with my Oklahoma history teachers. I had I had one teacher actually, she walked by and she was like, I'd really like to do more with civil rights. And that's literally all she said. Is she like went to her room after she got her coffee. And I was like, okay. So I did some research, looked into the standards, looked into what I had learned previously from previous professional development, and then put together a little like fun day for each of the teachers to come. And I had I called them primary source puzzles. I got they were primary source pictures of civil rights leaders in Oklahoma. I printed them out. I put them on, Mod Podge them on scraps of cardboard, because with that geometry project, I had a lot of cardboard. And then I went to my public library because I knew they had a laser cutter and laser cut puzzles out of them. So I got a bunch of puzzles, because the idea was they would put the puzzles together and they'd have to match the description with the civil rights leader. And then I had this really awesome picture book about Clara Luper that they all read together. And then I worked with our Oklahoma Historical Society I always saw that they had these traveling trunks of like museum artifacts and museum panels. And I always thought it was really for elementary, but then I was like, no, this is cool. I'll go pick it up. And so then the last half of the hour would be them exploring the museum artifacts and the museum panels. And so I did that with each of the teachers, and one teacher who super, super nice, but never reached out. Like we have so many teachers that sometimes once you build up that we do cool stuff and look how your kids can learn, will come to us and be like, hey, I want to do this. But a lot of times you do have to really show it to that teacher and just bring them in. So I said, can you just give me one day, just bring your kids and this will be cool. And he came, and now he's coming to our summer training to learn some more about how we can better embed the library with a bigger research project on this topic. So sometimes you have to do kind of the groundwork first and build something, which really that idea came from a workshop I went to that said, these trunks are a thing, and Oklahoma civil rights, here are some primary sources. And then I just I think even the puzzle thing really, I'm sure people have done that before. I will say laser cutting puzzles was an endeavor. You could also just print them out and cut up pieces. That would probably be a lot easier, but they did held up nice in the cardboard. But I think I did another training where we did that. We like put a puzzle together and then it was like, what does this image mean? So it just got the kids like thinking and using their hands instead of just like staring at a screen. So I mean, we didn't even actually use technology at all for that particular lesson. Whereas then, with the geometry one, we're 3D designing and doing all sorts of stuff. So I like a little bit of both because my teachers also like a nice mix of all of it. So I just have to be open to just trying new things and seeing if they'll like it.
It sounds like you really made use of a lot of technology to make learning what engaging. Do you see this in the students as you tell us about the role that technology plays in helping kids learn instead of just sit there and take notes and fill in quizzes?
Right. Well, I mean, I think I see a lot of, I'm very fortunate that I've learned from school library mentors who made it a priority to seek out new technology and see how it can fit in. So then, I'm always kind of on the lookout for things. One new piece of technology that I've really worked to embed in my practice is virtual reality. So, virtual reality, it's cool. Not every student can do it, but so I've really incorporated it as more of a station within larger activities. So, like for a research unit I've done with our 10th grade English classes on the the UN global goals. We kind of explored it. We read different books, we explore different images. We're looking at we're having the students look at the world and issues that are happening, but how maybe we can help with those issues. And virtual reality has been really cool. So I have several headsets where then there are different apps. I got a grant for several of the apps. Like one has them like swim in the ocean, which the ocean is just, that's always, everyone wants to question about the ocean. That's everyone's favorite global goal is life under sea. But there's also some where there's one called Ecospheres that I used where it has several different like mini documentaries, but then you also like when you put it on, you see the little world and then you see Colombia and then you get little mini documentaries to learn about issues and things happening in Colombia and a couple other countries that are featured in that particular app so that then students get to like actually be in that country as opposed, we're not going to be able to, take it out to Colombia, but they can actually still explore and it's fun and interesting at first. Like it's just kind of like, ooh, this is cool, but then they like learn something from it. Like I did another one. The research unit, the theme was empathy. And so I used, technology and empathy, I was like, well, how can we use tech? So I also bring it back to them, like, how can we use technology to empathize with others? Here's some examples. And so then, the apps I have for that are like Anne Frank house, which a lot of kids had read. So then it was like, wait, her house is really that small? Because again, we're not able to take them all on a plane to Amsterdam. There was one, it was so beautiful. There's one app called Notes on Blindness, where this man, back in the 80s, he started losing his vision and he did like a oral, like recorded diary of his experience. And then when you put the app on, you can kind of see what his limited vision was like as you're listening to the diary. And I had a girl, like she listened to it. And this was a student who like was not feeling any of the other, we also read picture books. We also listened to stories. Like there are a couple other things we did, but she was really not feeling it until that virtual reality experience. And I like saw her the next day and I said, hey, did you like it? And she goes, that was the most profound experience I've ever had. I would have never known what somebody was going through who was losing their vision. And I was like tear. Like I was just like, oh, you got it. That's great. But it's that technology, that flashiness that kind of gets them hooked in. But then it it takes like some research and some looking into. I'm again really fortunate. I really got to learn more about the benefits of that through librarians I've met through online and at conferences that have researched and done a lot of work for this, to where then I was able to kind of take and then build and do kind of my own stuff with it as well.
That's so wonderful. So you do so many wonderful things. How do you document for administrators, boards, parents, this whole program that you're talking about? What kind of evidence do you collect and disseminate of of your role in these exciting learning experiences?
I do a couple of different things. So base level, like whenever I'm teaching a lesson or I'm doing something, our school uses Canvas as our learning management system. So it's very easy for me to build a reflection or an assessment in Canvas, give it to that teacher, and then have access to see the student responses. I think it's really important to, I mean, sometimes it might even be as simple as like, what did you learn? Because sometimes my lessons are more of extensions of what the teachers are doing, so they don't necessarily need to take a hard grade on it. But I would like feedback. Sometimes I even do like a sticky note on the door on their way out of like, what was one cool thing you learned? What was one thing you wish we had done different? And I mean, with the stations, with Oklahoma history, I had a little whiteboard and I had them tally which station they liked the best, just to kind of get a sense of like where could I maybe beef up and build more on and focus on another aspect, other lessons and other curriculum. So
So
I do
then
a lot of that.
do you do some kind of report to administrators and parents or whatever?
Yeah, so I mean that's just kind of like class by class, seeing how things go.
Yeah.
I do a quarterly report and an annual report. So I mean the quarterly report is a real quick snapshot, like maybe this is how many grants we won this quarter, how many different subjects we taught, how many books were checked out, kind of little snapshots of that. The larger annual report ties directly to the AASL school librarian standards and kind of does some highlights, some numbers, things like that. And then also, I like to put what goals I have for the next year in the annual report. I have those all archived on the library website so that, I mean, you can go back as far as when I first started to see what the library did that year and what we're highlighting. I also have a really big social media presence with my school library. So at Norman North Library on Facebook and Instagram. I haven't branched out to too many other social media platforms just because at that point it gets really overwhelming. But my kids really use Instagram, so I can reach them that way. And then a lot of adults definitely still use Facebook. So those posts, so I mean, I might do a post where it has like some, action shots of us doing Oklahoma history stations. I try hard not to put students' faces in them just because I just have kind of the action shot so that, no one's privacy is being violated. It's just kind of like it's very easy to like have a picture of hands doing the puzzle and you can see the music and like the back of the kid's head looking at a museum panel. Like you can still do fun action shots showing that the kids are learning and engaging, and then sharing those pictures within a post. So like I might have a post, like I usually do posts highlighting different lessons we've done. I might do one on like the different research questions students came up with during a research unit. And sometimes it's also just like highlighting services like, hey, did you know that your librarians can curate a wakelet of resources for you on anything you'd like? Ta-da. And I mean, I've had teachers, no matter how many times I've told them like to their face, like, hey, the library can do this, then they'll see it on Facebook and they'll be like, I want that. So it's kind of about reaching, users where their information needs are. So social media is a big way too that I've promoted the library and the resources and services that we provide.
That's absolutely wonderful. So if I were a superintendent or principal or a school board member, and I really wanted to have this kind of dynamic, absolute library program in my school, what advice would you give me for making this happen?
Well, first, have a certified school librarian, like have a full-time person who has that time and is a dedicated staff. That is what they do. They're not subbing for people. They're not also teaching 3 English classes. Like they are the school librarian. Get a dedicated person first and foremost. And then honestly, I would also say invest in their professional development. Like you could have like the coolest person ever, like you can learn so much online, but I've also just learned so much by being able to go to conferences and then also share what I'm doing and learn from others and meet people from all over the country that then they improve my practices because I kind of take what they're doing in their library. So if you want to have a super dynamic, you have to let your librarian and support your librarian and learn in their own professional development and learning.
That's wonderful. So let's just think, what is the bottom line of all this? The library as you see it happening in the world of education now, what is your bottom line to all of this?
I mean, the library supports all students. So I think it's just so important to have, fully certified staff and budget. And, then there'll be just so much more that students can experience and learn from because they have that important piece in their school. Like, I mean, if you don't have a school librarian, you're missing out on just, increased literacy, increased learning opportunities. I mean, I pull in so many like community and or other organizations that a regular classroom teacher just doesn't have the time to do, or if they do, it's still only within their one class. So that is great for them that they have reached out and done that. But then what about the rest of the classes and what about the rest of the students? School librarians, I mean, school libraries create kind of an equal opportunity for access of information and reading and all sorts of things. So I think it's important to invest in them and to, honor what they do. Don't make them do other things, or just don't like get rid of them because you think, oh, well, we can just have a classroom library, or oh, we just have really good teachers, so we're fine. Like librarians enhance what the teachers are doing. Like it just makes everything better. Why wouldn't you want to have the best educational opportunities for all students?
Well, Molly, you're absolutely tremendous. And so I know that your teachers and your students love you and trust you and are involved in all that you do. And so I want to say thank you on behalf of those, your audience there, but also our viewers here, that we want more Molly Dettmanns in every school in the country and internationally. So we appreciate your time so very much. And so we'll say thank you, thank you, thank you, and bid you well, and just appreciate your time and effort and all you do.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for what you're doing as well.
All right. Bye-bye.